God has predetermined that you and I would look like Jesus Christ as we follow Jesus. If this is God's plan for our life, and Jesus says, I did not come to be served, but to serve, isn't it a logical conclusion that our task is to turn into servants? Don't wait for temptation to come to grasp a proper perspective. Don't wait for the temptation to come to grasp the proper perspective, right? Joseph could have said, well, this once, just this once. I mean, my master's out, he's playing golf. He didn't have anything going on here. He and Pharaoh out on the links, and they're, and I can dismiss all the servants. I can just, this one time, that's not a big deal. He could have done that. Or he could have said, yeah, I can hide that and do it over and over again. Because we rationalize and justify our sin. We rationalize why we can do things that maybe others shouldn't. But here's the deal. We need to have a proper perspective before the temptation comes to us. So let me give you 3 things for a proper perspective. Number 1, don't waste the pain of your life. Don't waste the pain of your life. Don't waste the learnings of the previous hardships in your life. Learn from them. Our son Cooper came into town this week. We went to a Rockets game together. He's a big Rockets fan, and he brought a buddy from school, and I took a friend with me, and 4 of us went to a Rockets game, and tickets are cheap, y'all. There's a reason. They're not very good yet, but Coop's believing, he's believing. So he's heading back to College Station on Wednesday night, and I said, hey, bud, don't drive too fast. Do not drive too fast. Please do not get a ticket. I don't need you driving too fast. I don't need you to get a ticket. You got your friend with you. You could kill him if you do something stupid. Deers could jump out. Just don't drive too fast. Okay, Dad, whatever. I get a text 45 minutes later. You're going to say, I told you so. I'm like, ugh. It's on my watch. My phone's in there, so I can't really respond, and that's a gift, right? And I just got a ticket. And then he tells me the amount. And I'm like, are you going over 100 miles an hour? He wasn't, but anyway. We're texting, he and his mom and I, the next day, we're texting. And I said, hey, buddy, don't waste the pain. He's like, huh? What does that mean? And his mom chimes in, don't repeat your mistakes. Don't be stupid. Learn from it. Is that what you said? Something like that. I may have embellished it, but not much. Learn from your mistakes. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're like a dog returning to the vomit. Look at Proverbs chapter 26, verse 11. Like a dog that returns to his vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. Learn from your pain. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from the pit. You don't want to miss out on life's lessons. I'll give you 3 ways to learn. Number 1, make mistakes. You're gonna learn from them. John Maxwell says sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Number 2, watch others make mistakes. When others make mistakes, learn from them. So, I'm not doing that. Versus being hard-hearted and hard-headed that you have to go make all your own mistakes. That's the way of the fool. Number 3, be teachable and coachable. Go seek someone out and say, hey, would you help me navigate some things that I'm coming up on? Like intentionally try to avoid making mistakes. Notice Joseph's progression. Remember when we meet him, he's like, you guys are bowing down to me. He doesn't steward the vision God's given him very well. And his brothers hate him for it, and his father rebukes him. But now we see a whole different humility in his life. I wonder, it doesn't tell us in the scripture, but I wonder if in that pit he kind of has a conversation with himself. Like, if I get out of here, I'm going to do things a little differently. If I get out of here, I'm going to carry myself differently. I believe he might have. And so don't waste the pain is how to get a proper perspective. Number 2, know your spot. The second way to have a proper perspective is to know your spot. He's walking in humility and temptation's coming and he's resisting. He's got the Heisman up, man. He's like, no. He's still stewarding well what's going on. And knowing your spot, I want you to think horizontally about other relationships, and I want you to think vertically about your relationship with God. Let's look horizontally first. Notice what he says about Potiphar, his master. Genesis 39, 8 through 9a. But he refused and said to his master's wife, behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am. Nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. Notice this horizontal. He seeks to honor the authority in his life. His testimony is this: because of me, my master has no concern about anything. Seems a little arrogant, doesn't it? But you got to dig a little bit deeper. Notice he uses the term my master. This is a term of submission. He could have said, man, because of me, your husband, he has no concern. But he doesn't do that. He brought the master close to him. And he realized, if I'm going to thrive here, I better learn to serve this man. If I'm going to make it in the slave world here, I better bless this guy and take care of this guy and serve this guy. I better draw close to the authority in my life, even though I may not like Potiphar as a person, even though his character may reek. See, friend, if you want to win, find out how the authority in your life keeps score and go score. That's how Jack Welch said it. Enter into a company, find out how they keep score, go score. You draw close to them and humbly serve them. Serve them so well, they can't help but give you more. Serve them. Now, remember Romans 8, verse 29, right? All things, verse 28, all things work together for good. Okay, great. Verse 29, because God has predestined that you and I would be conformed to the image of the Son. Look at Romans 8:29. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. God has predetermined that you and I would look like Jesus Christ as we follow Jesus. If this is God's plan for our life, and Jesus says, I did not come to be served, but to serve, isn't it a logical conclusion that our task is to turn into servants? I think it is. So what if God is so serious about this happening in your life, he's willing for you to be placed into a pit and then serve alongside a Potiphar? Joseph has learned to serve, and he's saying, I've served my master so well and so faithfully that he is not greater than I am in the house. You read that, and you're like, what? What did he just say? He is not greater than I am in the house. You see, here's what happens. Good leaders, they see capacity, and they go, here, let's push him along. Let's give her more responsibility. She is really gifted. And they watch, and they study, and they see, and then, well, let's give him more. Look at what he's doing. Let's give him more. Let's boom, 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 boom. Let him grow. Let him develop. So much so that good leader gets to the point and says, okay, y'all, listen. She's in charge. I'm the first follower. He's in charge. I'm the first follower. Because he's such a good leader. He's such a good steward. He's such a good administrator. He's so gifted, and he's so loyal. I don't have to worry about it. That's one less thing I got to pay attention to, right? This is what Joseph is saying. We are working at a high level together. We've gotten so much trust built. See, that's the horizontal perspective. And I think it's powerful and reverent and ought to be the testimony of every follower of Jesus in the marketplace. That we serve so well. People are like, wow, I don't know what's in them, but man, they're so good at it. We stand apart. We stand out because we're diligent and God's hand is upon us. Where does this reverence come from? Look at verse 9b. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? That's the vertical. How can I violate that man whom I'm serving and be wicked against God? Listen to me. Adultery is wickedness. And it's not just against another person by taking their spouse. It's also against God. Joseph understands what it is to fear God. And this keeps him aware of his spot. He knows his spot. Now, here's what I'm going to do. As your pastor, I want to do a little preventative work here, okay? I'm going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to show you what does the Bible say about adultery. I will also say to you, if this is something in your story, God can redeem it. I mean, you just go back to Genesis 38 and look at Judah and Tamar, and what a mess that was. But yet the Messiah came from the line of Judah, right? God can redeem any and all of this stuff, but let me do a preventative work in your life. I'd rather you say, I'm so glad you told me that so many years ago, versus I sure wish you would have taught on this. What does the Bible say about adultery? Number one, thou shalt not commit adultery. Exodus chapter 20, verse 14. I mean, it's like in the Big Ten, okay? That's number one. Number two, its road leads to devastation and death. Devastation and death. Speaking of the adulteress, notice what it says in Proverbs 7, 24 and following. And now, O sons, listen to me and be attentive to the words of my mouth. Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her path, for many a victim she has laid low, and all her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is the way of Sheol, going down to the chambers of death. Friends, that is ruin and devastation. Anybody want to intentionally sign up for ruin and devastation? Anybody? I didn't think so. What else does the Bible say about adultery? If you look in Proverbs 6, you're going to see this. If you commit adultery, you're taking an active role in destroying yourself. You can start in verse 23. I'm going to go to verse 32. He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself. He will get wounds and dishonor, and disgrace will not be wiped away. For jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation. He will refuse though you multiply gifts. When you go sleep with another person's spouse, watch out. 1, you lack sense. 2, you destroy yourself. And 3, your disgrace will not be wiped away. This is the word of the Lord. You want some more? You're like, no, I'm going to give you some more. What does the Bible say about adultery? Number 4, adultery is a trap set for you. Proverbs 5, 20 through 23. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he's held fast in the discords of his sin. He dies for a lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. Now, here's the thing. Joseph didn't have the 10 Commandments. That came after him. Joseph didn't have Solomon and his wisdom. That came after him. What did Joseph have that made him so wise? That made him so wise? He had a fear of the Lord. That is not the same as I love Jesus. Okay, listen to me. I love Jesus. Yes, I do. How about I love Jesus? How about you? No, I'm teasing. Okay. Yeah, there you go. We can love Jesus and still not fear God. Still not revere God. Still not just understand his holiness and set apart and the call upon our life. But what sets Joseph apart is he feared the Lord. And therefore he got wisdom. Notice what it says of Genesis 39, verse 10, because he was wise enough not to listen. And as she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not listen to her, to lie beside her, or to be with her. He wouldn't just sit there and listen. I wonder what she's going to say today to try to pull me in. You can't sit and listen to temptation and not be succumbed to it. You can't be an alcoholic and keep alcohol in your house and not end up drunk. You can't be addicted to pornography and not have any rails set apart, especially in the world in which we live today, and think you're going to overcome pornography. It just won't happen. You've got to run from it. You've got to not listen to it, and you've got to run the other way, which is what we see Joseph do. He was wise. And so the third way to get proper perspective is to get wisdom. Now, where do we get wisdom? As I already told you, it's the fear of the Lord. Proverbs 1, let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. The fear of the Lord is the beginning point. This is where it starts. If you want wisdom in your life, you got to get on your face and beg for it. That's what Proverbs 2 says. It's more valuable than rubies, than silver, than gold, than costly stones. And so ask, seek, knock, beg, dig. Proverbs 2, 1 through 4. And then here's what says will happen in your life. Proverbs 2, verse 6. For wisdom, the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. And if any man lacks wisdom, just go ask God and believe he's going to give it. You just go, all right, sure. Open that. Here you go. Drop it right into your life. He stores up wisdom for you. He's ready to give it to you. This is the greatest difference maker that will help you navigate all the challenges and trials and struggles of your life. The wisdom of God. You got to ask, seek, knock, beg, and dig, and he gives it. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds wisdom in store for the upright. He's a shield to those whose walk is blameless, guarding the paths of justice, watching over the way of his saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom, look at it, will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul.